Well, good evening, folks. Thanks for coming in. It's our first live in a couple of weeks, but we're back. And tonight we have back with us this lovely young lady, hypnotherapist, and she's a student in parapsychology, Debbie Ison.
Hello, nice to see you all again.
Debbie was with us about a month ago, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Sarah's saying hello for the sofa. Now, the sofa is about 10 feet away from me.
Excellent.
No, we got a new telly. You see, we got a big 65-inch telly. So she's watching Call the Midwife. I don't know if you watch that. I don't know. You ever watched that?
I do watch that. I quite like Call the Midwife. It's one of those things I watch that if I'm tired and I don't really want to put a lot of concentration in, it's just easy watching.
Debbie watches Call the Midwife. I would admit that on the live. I know there's about 30 seasons there. There's we Eileen for Phantom Seekers Paranormal. And hi Eileen doll. We'll be seeing her next month. She's coming over to Eileen's for the east side of Scotland, but she's all right, you know. we can forgive her for that. So Debbie was with us roughly about a month ago, give or take, and I can't even remember what we're talking about. You know,
all sorts of different things, yeah.
I think a subject matter kind of varied that night. I did watch it back actually. You ever do that? Talk to somebody and then when you think back, think, what were we talking about?
That happens to me all the time. I've got a brain like a sieve.
So sometimes so have I. But tonight we're going to be talking about. There's our lovely Laura. She's one of ours. Good evening. Love to see you again, Debbie. Hello there, Gaffer. Enjoyed your last chat, Debs. Oh, you see, there you go. Your chat, Debs. I was kneeling. I must have been doing my hair or something.
It's because you were doing an excellent job interviewing me.
Keep going. Is that it?
Yeah, for now. We have to repeat the compliments all the way through.
All right, just with wee pebbles in the pond, basically, sort of thing. Right, that's fine. So today we're going to be talking about two kind of subjects that we are not experts on. I'll make that clear from the start. We're going to talk about tonight. We're not saying it's fact. We're just going to give our thoughts on it. It's just two ideas that popped into my head. But here we go. Oh, goes without saying, Mr. M. Thank you, Eileen. You can come to our house for dinner. Eyebrow here, ear here, and nose here. Sorry, I'll behave. You and I shall talk. She always stays 2 minutes away from us. I think she forgets us. And we've got a car, so it's less than 2 minutes, Laura, dear. I think. You put me off what I was told. What was I saying? Aye. So tonight we're going to be talking about the old scenario. Do spirits haunt graveyards? If they do, why? And what is spirits' awareness of time?
Yep.
I think I explained that right. I'm not sure.
I think you did. It makes sense to me.
Well, that's as long as it makes sense to you, me, who cares?
We're the ones discussing it.
Aye, so, makes sense to me. So when I spoke about it to myself, basically. So, where do you want to start? Graveyards, haunting, spirits. What's your thoughts on it?
Graveyards, because that's the first one that you've said. So let's go for graveyards first, because I know when you do some of your investigations, you go to graveyards. Is that right?
Yep, aye. Yep.
So what's the rationale behind that? Why do you go there?
Why do we go? I don't know. See, why do you go to graveyards? That's a hard one to explain. I mean, a lot of other teams do graveyards. It's quite a common thing to do graveyards. But, I mean, a lot of the graveyards we do, one in particular, Loudon-Kirk, with Eileen's coming next month as we Highland Paranormal today. We've been doing that for about 3 years. And it's an old kirkyard. It dates back, I think it's about the 1100s. It dates back to, so it's really, really old sort of thing. And I don't know, you just imagine, when we first started, you just imagine graveyards to be a place where spirits hanging about, basically. You know,
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's a kind of global thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's a graveyard, so it's going to be haunted.
That's interesting.
Basically.
I suppose there's lots of dead bodies there, isn't there? There's lots of people that have been buried, so maybe there is that association for people.
There's no much life in the place.
No.
That's a wee joke. But my theory, I mean, so some people say, I'm getting a bit of a cough, so I do apologise. I mean, some people say to me, why go to a graveyard? Why would somebody want to hang about a place where their, you know, their bodies been buried, basically? Ancient graveyards are a different kind of set. They are though. See, we don't do modern graveyards, even photographs. That we don't take any photographs of. So modern day graveyards. For simple, we don't do it for a simple reason is you could have somebody buried in there and their relatives are still here.
Absolutely.
And the last thing I'd want to do is look in somebody's Facebook page and see a picture of my dad's grave or, you know, something like that.
I completely agree.
And plus, no offence to the modern graveyards, but the ancient graveyards had a lot more history to them. You know, and they're a lot more fascinating. They're spiritually, they're quiet, they're quirky, and they tell stories of people who once walked this earth. The stones tell their stories. The stones tell their stories. We are there to bring these stories to life if they choose to talk. Basically, that's the other thing. Greyfriars, we love Greyfriars, but you get Greyfriars and some of the headstones. Eileen and Laura will tell you this as well. I've stood quite a few times, and you read the headstones, and some of them are quite detailed. You know, there is one particular one down at the bottom end of Greyfriars. That thing's massive. It's beautiful, but it's an entire family. And the kids, you know, and the kids passed at a very young age within a very short time of each other. I think it was within a year. The two infants passed. And then the mum passed, and then a couple of years later, the father passed. So when you're reading it, you start thinking, so why did the infants pass that, you know, close together? Was it a disease? Was it, you know? So it starts making you think. A bit of disrespect to London Murky cemeteries. As I've known a couple of people that have done it, and the one particular bollock for Edinburgh, he did a children's graveyard, which to me is just totally taboo, you know. But I'm going back a few years. He done a children's graveyard in the Edinburgh area, and it was just disgusting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love reading headstones. They tell a story. Totally agree, Eileen. They do tell a story. So you see, I mean, this family, 2 kids, passed in infancy within a year, and then the mum passed, and then they will. I wonder why the mum passed. She passed because she had disease. The father outlived them, sort of thing. It makes your mind start turning and, you know, asking questions to yourself, and it is really, really interesting. But you're back to what you originally asked. I think we just started doing graveyards because it was the norm. You know, a lot of teams were doing it. When we first started investigating, one of the first places was Greyfriars. But we've been quite lucky. That we sound big-headed, you know, there's no meant to sound that way, but evidence-wise, in graveyards, and so people say to me, well, why would spirits be there?
Yeah.
You know, why would they wander? And so I came up with a theory that, because I've always wondered about Loudon, because we've had tons of evidence at Loudon. I'm not going to say too much, because Eileen's coming with us next month, so, you know, let her go in blindside. Well, I've always wondered, what do they do when we're not there?
Yep, that's interesting.
You know, what do they do? Do they wander about or whatever? So I was thinking, well, maybe, I think I said to you in a mail, Debbie, it's a case of they're not there. They only are there when, you know, investigators go and they're near their resting place or their family's resting place.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
You know, because I mean, spirit know what's going on. you know, regardless. So maybe this is going to sound a stupid comparison, right? But if you're out somewhere and your car's in a car park and you see somebody hanging about your car, what's your natural reaction?
I suppose you go and check out what's going on.
Exactly. So who's to say it's not the same for spirit? Especially where a family plot's concerned. You know, around here being active with us. So if you've got, say, a father who's you know, family are buried all together in this one graveyard, and he knows what they're going to, what they after, I'm going to go and have a look. Does that make sense? It makes sense up here. It's curiosity, basically.
And I suppose sometimes maybe spirits, it depends whether they're sort of attached to a physical locality or, like you say, whether they can visit. I suppose sometimes if a family member goes to a graveyard often and it's their place for connecting and feeling close to their loved one who's passed, then maybe a spirit would come in at that way to communicate because it's an easy place to connect. I suppose I find graveyards quite peaceful and relaxing, and they're sort of stilled from the outside world. So maybe people are just more perceptive in those places because they're thinking about the loved one. But in terms of the paranormal investigations, that's quite interesting that you think they maybe come in to sort of have a nosy and see what's going on.
I mean, who's to say? I mean, I might be totally wrong. You know, as I said at the start, it's no, we're saying it's no fact, it's just a theory. But and this is where the trust thing comes in, I think. Because a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't go to the same place over and over again because it gets boring. You know. But we don't believe that. We believe that if you're going to, don't get me wrong, we've done locations before as a one-off and we've never went back, you know, same as every other team has. But I think if you go to one particular place, if that spirit does come in to be nosy, you know, and stands and listens and say, well, they're actually okay, so I'm going to talk to them, and then you go back again, they say, oh, I remember them, they were here before. I know it sounds basic.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Even you saying that makes you think, well, that's about two-way communication then, isn't it? So it's the idea that then they have an awareness of you being there and they're wanting to communicate. So then I suppose the interesting thing with that is, well, why are they wanting to communicate? What is it that they're wanting to say to you? What message are they going to convey? Which that in itself is fascinating.
I kind of think they're not haunted, generally speaking, but may have a residual energies or anniversary visitations. I have validation that my dad has seen me at his grave, 109%. Dad told me I was only observing flowers. I took him. You see, you stuff like that. How do you can't deny that? You know, that's 100% basically. But I think, as you say, what message are they trying to convey? Are they trying to get a message across? You know, say it's not a relative, say it's just an old graveyard, or you know, are they trying to get a message across, or are they just wanting somebody to talk to?
Maybe, and I suppose that's going to depend on lots of factors, isn't it? Of how they passed away, whether they know that they've passed away or whether they still think they're living, if they've held on to trauma. There's so many different variables, I suppose, with that.
Yeah. If you go over to the same place again and you build up trust with spirit, they learn to trust you and they want to be listened to. That's maybe just a high, or in PIH case, it can be a puzzle. We've been doing Loudon for 3 years, something like that, quite a while. And we've had a lot of evidence, names and stuff, and we've managed, the girls have managed to piece together so far some of it, you know. And I mean, we've got clear EVPs where everybody's name getting mentioned by the same person. I know most of the souls where Dad is, and I walk around having a chat and blether with them. I'm going to come to that, just the blether, but I mean, we've got EVPs, and I'll say because there's a farm nearby Loudon. It's about a quarter of a mile away, and there's a connection between the two of them.
Interesting.
And I'll say, I was up at the farm, the other day, and with a clear EVP saying he was up at the house. Scott's been up at the house. And, I've asked a gentleman by name, and Rigger was with me as well for Spig. We did an investigation one night, and Laura's seen a couple of shadows there as well. Rigger saw one, and when Rigger's Spig, they're based in Glasgow. When he sees something parrot, he gets all excited and starts crying and all the rest. He's a big wuss. Do you know what I mean? He's a big wuss, but he gets all excited. But this night he was all excited. I never seen it. He's seen this shadow. So we phoned the necrophonic, and I says, "Was that you?" I've said the guy's name, and we get a strong Scottish accent coming through saying, "Yes."
Oh, how fascinating!
Straight away. I've still got EVPs, not to forget. Brown. We did an investigation. We took teams in there before. And I think that's a good way to validate things. You just take a team in. You don't tell them very much. You just let them go and do their thing, basically. Yep. One night, we Rosie Cardin, our partner, up last year to the goung, and we did Loudon. And up at this farm, at the back of it, there's what remains a circular wall at the back of it. Okay. And so I says, I was up at the farm. There's a wall at the back. Can you tell me what was behind that wall? And we got back sheep.
Okay.
And I said, can you tell me what, because there's black sheep and white sheep up there. I said, can you tell me what colour the sheep were? And he came back, strong Scottish accent. Everybody heard it, brun.
Wow.
So I asked again a wee while later. I said, I've forgotten what colour the sheep was. Can you tell me again? Sorry. And he came back, brun.
Oh, I'd love to hear some of these recordings. If you've got a record of them, it'd be fascinating to have a listen.
Well, I'll need to ask Sarah how to do it. She's Laura will tell you, no chance. But the funny thing was, one of the owners of the farm texted me about a week later, and he says, "You're not going to believe this." Because there's things that happened up there, but he says, "You're not going to believe this." He says, "But I was out this morning, wandering about, and I saw brown sheep in the field."
Oh, interesting.
And he says, "In all my time here, I've never ever seen any brown sheep."
Wow.
He says, "I don't know if that ties in with what you guys got, but I'm just telling you what I've seen." Laura and Sarah, they'll get you sorted out.
Oh, nice! That sounds exciting. Yeah. I love things like that.
Oh, we've got quite a wee collection that Eileen has as well. But so my theory is that spirits aren't there in graveyards all the time.
I suppose it depends what the land has also been used for at different points in history, because often that land will have only been used as a graveyard for so long. So what was there before that? How was the land used? And I suppose everything's energy, isn't it? So if there was people living there, there might be remnants of their energy. And obviously often when there's burial sites as well, there's different religious beliefs and different ceremonies that take place, and they all create energy as well. So I suppose there's lots of different factors to take into consideration.
And then, as you say, there might be some spirits. Which we know that some people don't actually know that they have passed on.
Absolutely. I get it through sometimes with the spirit release work that I do. And if I'm talking to an alleged entity like that is a lost soul that doesn't recognise they're dead, it can be quite a hard thing to break that news to them, to sort of explain, when were you last in your human body? What do you remember? And then sort of that realization of what has happened, and then saying, do you know what year it is now? Do you know what's happening? And quite often they don't, which I suppose leads to our topic that we're going to talk about in a bit, don't have that perception of time passing because they don't even realize that they're no longer alive.
Highgate is amazing. We'd like to do a night. That's London. That the one in London, Eileen, Highgate Cemetery. I'm going to say something and it's gone. What did you just say there, baby? That is just gone.
What did I just say? That is a very good question. I can't remember. Oh, I do remember. We were talking about spirits that had passed and perhaps didn't realise that they had passed away.
Aye, that's right. You know, and I dare say there is many spirits out there that don't know that they've actually passed on. And as we were saying about, we asked them what year it was. A question we've never had any luck with it so far. Thanks, Eileen. Eileen's time. That we'll ask sometimes, you know, can you tell us who's on the throne, who's the king or queen?
Mm-hmm.
We've never had any luck with that one yet, but that's not to say we won't.
But then I think sometimes, like if I'm doing a past life regression with an individual, I might ask questions like who's on the throne, who's the prime minister, and the person doesn't always know. But then actually I think, do you know what? I don't always know that information because it depends what else is going on in my life as to how aware I am of the external world around me and how much I'm just focused on my life. So I suppose it depends on the type of person you are and how interested you are in those things as to whether or not you would necessarily know that information.
I suppose I've not thought of it that way actually. Maybe it's to do with how sudden it happens, the trauma surrounding it. Possibly, you know, if it's kind of instant, you know, then they might have a kind of hard time. Like the film, I always remember the film Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Patrick Swayze, I can never pronounce his second name. You know, but he doesn't realise that he's actually went over, sort of thing. So just visually your past life regressions. So tell us about them.
So past life regression. So what I do with a past life regression is a client will come to work with me. Sometimes it's because they know they want a past life regression, and that might be they're just curiosity, or they might have an issue in this lifetime that they don't know where it comes from, but they want it resolved. Other times it happens spontaneously in therapy. So I might ask the person to go to the energetic origin of the problem, and they might go back in time. So different people have got different theories about that. Some people believe it's genuine past lives and that we are a soul that keeps reincarnating. Other people believe in the idea that it's metaphors that the mind creates. Some people think it's epigenetics, so the idea that actually memories get passed through our DNA. It could be a mix of all of it. But what we do is we take the person back to a significant past life that's relevant for them to explore. And how I do it is we get as much detail as possible. So we try and find out where they live, their names, street names, dates, occupations, find out a picture about their life. And then we move through that life, finding all the significant events that we can find. What are the main key points that happen throughout that life? And then we go through to the death. So find out how they passed away. And that's always really fascinating because when they go through that experience, there's a lot of parallels with people who have, say, experienced near-death experiences, or when I'm talking in spirit release, that often there's perhaps a sense of peace, a recognition they're leaving the body, moving into a tunnel or a light. And what I like to do after that is I like to take the individual to an in-between life state. So that's back to where they're basically soul or spirit. And at that stage, we can then reflect. So in that lifetime, what did they learn? How has that impacted their present lifetime? Is there any trauma or issues from that lifetime that we need to heal and resolve? And if that's the case, we do therapeutic work on that. In that lifetime, the people that they knew and had relationships with, do they know them in this lifetime? And what are the dynamics? So let's say they had a husband in the previous lifetime. This time, it might be their husband again, or it could actually be their father in this lifetime or their friend. And it's working out why they keep coming back together. What lessons do they have to learn, or how are they helping each other to grow? So it's really information gathering, but it's using it in a way to either heal what needs to be healed or to get extra awareness as to how this person's going to live their life now. So it's fascinating.
I had a couple of comments said sudden death drawers, sudden traumatic death may render a spirit confused. I just you were talking about there, Debbie. Can a person reincarnate back into the same family lineage?
Yes, I've had that before with individuals, and that's really interesting actually, where they have been another relative in the past that's now come back. But not always. It depends on what that soul needs for their growth. So what we often do as well is we look at when they're in spirit at that soul level, what lessons are they here to learn? And it tends to be the idea that people come to learn lessons and to grow. So they'll be placed with the family they need to help them with that, the circumstances they need, the period of time that they need to be in to achieve what they want to within their human life. So it can be very varied.
You see, two questions for you, actually. Do you think that, past lives are just, the purpose of past lives is for us to learn? The reason why we keep coming back till we reach that certain point that, I'm not saying we're perfect souls or anything, but we get to that certain point that we've learned everything we can learn and we don't need to come back.
I think that's definitely a possibility. And certainly when you look into just different religious beliefs, that is one idea. From the experiences I've had sort of with my clients, it does tend to be the idea that at a soul level, it's like if you're in a library and you've got access to all the books in the universe that give you all that knowledge and information. But as much as you read those books, unless you've actually had the experience to know what it's like, you can't fully understand it. So it's almost like Earth is a place where we can come to experience what it's like to feel love, to feel pain, to have suffering, to have joy, to have interactions with others. So it's almost like you're trying on different roles to see how they shape you, to give you that knowledge and that greater understanding, so that then when you go back, you've evolved, you understand more. But I certainly think through those lives, we do get presented with lessons and choices. And if we make mistakes or choose the wrong path, then we have to come back and repeat those lessons until we get the hang of it. Just in the same way as we do when we go to school. If we're not getting the lesson, we need to repeat it. But once we've done that, we can move on to something else. So I think it's entirely possible that actually eventually we learn enough and we don't have to be here anymore.
There's another common file. I put on a wee second, Eileen, though. The other question was, who decides?
So that's really interesting. So we don't know definitely, but what I do is I invite a guide through. So somebody that's more spiritually experienced within those spiritual realms, and they will often give extra insight. And what I sometimes do is in that in-between life state, we go to meet a council of elders. So there's some more sort of senior guides that have sort of knowledge of that soul's experience. And it tends to be in that concept, they decide, okay, how is this soul doing? Are they getting the lessons? What are we going to do next? And it seems to be a partnership that they sort of suggest, well, maybe you need to look at this, or have you considered that? And then that soul agrees to do that, or that soul thinks, actually, do you know what? I need to learn this lesson. And then it's planned out as to how they're going to go and do that. So is it going to be through a nice positive life experience? Is it going to be through something traumatic happening? What other souls need to be put in place to facilitate those lessons and that growth? So it's almost like it seems like there's a bigger plan that takes place between different souls really to decide what's going to happen next.
So it's basically, it's like a board of governors.
Yeah,
you're standing before them and you're saying, right, well, you did this and you did that. We feel that you could do better. And we're going to give you John, Patrick and Charlie here. They're going to guide you, Again, real life, whether it's a work situation, you've messed something up and they say, right, we're going to put these two guys with you and they'll show you the right way to do it.
Absolutely. And I think it's a really powerful thing to recognize, because when you start to view relationships and dynamics like that, it means that when you meet anybody, whether you like them or not, there's an opportunity for you to learn and grow. So some people will come into your life to help and support you and nurture you. Other people might come in to be really horrible to you, because actually sometimes there's lessons and growth in that, either to say, no more, I'm not going to tolerate this behavior, or you learn a new level of resilience or a way to cope. But I think seeing it from that perspective, it gives the idea that actually the universe, God, your soul, whatever it is, has always got your back in one way or another. So even if a situation isn't very easy to deal with, what are the opportunities in it for you?
I could be my own ancestor.
It's weird, isn't it?
That is weird. Can you imagine being your own great grandfather or something?
Yeah, really strange.
I was my grandfather, and I fought the great grandfather fought in the War of the Roses or something.
Yeah.
You know
Really fascinating.
That's the ending beliefs. You only have to come back to further learn and develop. When lessons are learned, we go to another place. Scott, what brought our planets to collide? I tell you, Toby, you and I, Eileen. I think the Eileen you never know, she's from the east side of Scotland, so they're a bit mixed up over there, you know. They're not like us Glaswegians and West Coast folk. But so you could be basically your own grandfather, grandmother, you know, sister, brother, or, you know, whatever. And
absolutely. I've got a friend, and his grandmother passed away of a heart attack. And then when his daughter was born, she looked remarkably similar, and she was born with a heart defect. And there was the question there, actually, could that be the grandmother reincarnated? And is that why the little girl has come through with a heart defect? Might not be, it might be complete coincidence, but it was interesting to think about.
That is, I mean, as you say, it could be a hereditary thing, or, you know, whatever, it could jump so many generations or whatever.
Absolutely.
Also, you need to look at it from all kind of angles, but as you say, it could be that, is this the grandmother coming back to have another go at it?
We're never going to know, and that's what makes it fascinating and exciting to explore it, and that's where it's good that we've got different belief systems and we can chat about it.
You need to have different belief systems. You need to, you know, we don't always agree. I don't, you know, people say this every single day, and I totally agree. We're never going to agree 100% because it would be boring, and there would be nothing to talk about. You know, you say, I believe this, so they are, but end of conversation. You know, there's nothing to talk about. Whereas somebody say, I believe this, is you're talking a load of bollocks. Oh, well, well, let's have a wee chat about it then. And so you need to have, you know, different beliefs and different opinions and stuff, so you can sit and chat about it, and it's how we learn as well.
Absolutely.
You know, it is a great way to learn.
And we're here to learn.
Because you might say something, I thought, oh, here, I never thought it that way. You know, it could be, you know, we're constantly learning. I mean, a quick example, you know, we've been out with Spig quite a few times, and we use cat balls, and I can't mind the location, but our cat ball kept rolling away. Something basic, just, and I said to David and Spig's team, was a pain in that. He said, put it inside a glass. I think it was Loudon actually. He said, put it inside a glass. I thought, oh, here, aye. So we started taking a glass and putting the cat ball in it, and it didn't roll away. I know it's a totally stupid comparison, but it basically along the same kind of lines, you know. Debate and discussion. It's healthy. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it can turn a wee bit too heated. You know what I mean?
But that depends on the emotional intelligence of the individual, doesn't it? And I think actually it's keeping that mindset of being open to other people's ideas and being respectful, even if we don't agree. So I think discussion's really healthy.
You have to be respectful. I mean, obviously, we've been doing this for over 4.5 years now, and I've met a lot of people and stuff like that, and some of their thoughts and theories, you think, no, you know, what kindergarten did you just fall out of? But you just nod and smile. Say, aye, well, it's possible. That's it. You know, even though they might be total cabbages, you just say, aye, it's totally fine. I see where you're coming from in that one, guys. You know, but then the other side of the coin is you get people that no matter how much you tell them, they're always right.
Yep.
No doubt you've encountered that.
Though, isn't it? Because we all have those biases in the way that we think, and everybody, I suppose, is on their own journey, and they all progress through that at different rates. So we just have to love those people. Love them regardless.
We just have to tolerate them. Yeah, we're all learning. Nobody knows the secrets behind the veil till we get there. So who can say who's right? No, you're totally spot on. Now that's what I said at the start. The things we're talking about tonight, this is just our thoughts on it. We might be totally wrong, you know, maybe totally out the park with it, but who knows? We've all got our own, you know, how do you put it, our own thoughts of how it is once we go. You know,
Yeah.
and we've all seen that many films and, you know, Hollywood and all the rest of it. You know, what happens when you pass over. You know, Ricky Gervais and that. I think he's a dentist or something. You seen that one?
No, I don't think I have.
I think he's a dentist, but he has a near-death experience or something. And all of a sudden he starts seeing spirits everywhere. He goes outside and all these people come up and say, "You can see me, you can hear me," sort of thing. And they just make his life hell, basically, because it's 24/7.
Yeah.
You know? So you think, you know, is it like that? Because, I mean, some people have asked me, "Have you ever seen a ghost?" I say, well, I don't know. Because what does a ghost look like? You know, well, there's all these different images, misty figure and then a solid figure. Well, what is... But I could have walked right past somebody that was, you know, a ghost, and you just don't realise it. But we've got way off the subject, though.
But that's the great thing about these conversations. They just meander where they need to go.
Yeah, you kind of mosey in and out the topic, you know. Who knows what works exactly? We just do not know. And I mean, I think I've seen. We did Loudon one night. We did Loudon, and I was standing, and there was trees and bushes over to the left hand side of me. And you're talking about a split second. I looked over, and I swear I saw a little girl, black hair, white dress, white kind of clothes on, peeking around the side of the tree or the bush. But you're talking about a millisecond.
Yeah.
You know, you look over and think, did I just see somebody there? You know, it happened in our old house. It was twice I was lying on the bed watching the telly and the bedroom door was open. We stayed in a four in a block. I don't know if you have them in England, a four in a block.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's like 4 flats put together.
Oh, right. We probably do. I don't live in one of those.
Yeah, I don't know what you call them down there, but we call it 4 in a block here. It's 4 houses in a block. So our hall ran right by the bed, and I was watching the telly, and do you think it's your wee? No, there was nobody. I was in myself, Eileen. I always said I think it was her wee daughter. I was in myself, and I swear I saw somebody going by the door. And that happened twice. But it was like, shh, and they were gone. You know what I mean? So who knows? We could be walking. There could be spirits walking. I think that there is.
Well, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Because actually, we're all just sort of different frequencies and energies. So there's probably multiple dimensions that are all occupying this same space. So there's probably lots of different beings around us all the time. We're mostly just not aware of it. Just in the same way that there's all the radio stations all around us, we just choose which one we're tuning into, and most of the time we stick to one specific one, but then occasionally we might find something else. Maybe it's that we're just occasionally tuning into something else.
I mean, we've been in occasions before, and we're no psychics or anything. Occasionally I'll pick up and stuff, but it's very, very rare. I'll pick up the odd little thing, but we've been in locations before. Here's Eileen getting technical again. And she knows I don't understand this. But I do try my best. And we've been in locations before. Again, we're no psychic, but you walk in. One night sticks right in my head is Alloway Kirk. Disappeared. Did you see that there?
Did I see what? Where?
The screen went blank.
So you were frozen at my end for quite a long time, so I could hear you talking, but I couldn't see you. So I'm not sure if it's my internet or your internet or what's going on, but it keeps freezing for me.
It keeps freezing here. We disappear.
How interesting.
And you know how we turning circle you get on the telly when it's tuning into something?
Yeah.
I call it a turning circle. That's how technical I am. That came up on both the screens. Yep, and your sound went. I don't know. I don't know what happened there.
Maybe it was a ghost. Maybe a ghost is trying to communicate with us and show us that actually what we're talking about is correct.
Aye, you're spot on the money. I don't know what that was. Anyway, so we went there one night, and as soon as we walked in, Eileen and over talk. You probably as well, Debbie, but it was just totally flat.
Okay.
You know, we walked in, and it was just a case of. But I think we lasted about 15 minutes, and just we're going up the road. There was just nothing. You know, there was no atmosphere, nothing. Flat's the only way I can describe it. Whereas Greyfriars, Eileen will understand this, it's over Laura and Sarah. Greyfriars, you walk in and right away you just feel like there's hundreds of eyes upon you.
How interesting.
You know, Eileen and Laura, it always with Sarah, she's got her earbuds in watching I'm a Midwife or whatever the hell it's called, I don't know. So she's in Planet Midwife. But as soon as you walk, it's not an eerie feeling, it's not a spooky or evil feeling, but it's the way I describe it is if you ever walked into a room, you know, maybe you go to a party or something, and you walk in a crowded room and everybody just turns and looks at you, you have to say,
yes,
who's that?
Yeah.
You know, it's as if the whole party stops for a split second while people look at you and think, don't know who she is. Who is she? Yeah. And then they carry on. Do you know that? That's a kind of feeling. You go to parts of Susan and they kick you back out, whatever. Silence in Greyfriars is deafening. It is. That's another weird thing about Greyfriars, Debbie. It's Greyfriars sits in one of the main routes in and out of Edinburgh.
All right.
So it's constantly busy with buses, taxis, you know, tourists, everything. But as soon as you step in, and there's not a big walk from the street to the gate, you're talking about 10, 15 feet. You know,
right.
As soon as you step in to Greyfriars, it's as if it's just silence. No, I know it's a kirkyard, I know it's a graveyard, but the location that it's in and the city that it's in, you would expect some noise. You know, I mean, Loudon Kirk, Alloway Kirk, places like that, it's silent because it's surrounded by fields, basically. But somewhere like Greyfriars, it's surrounded, you're in the middle, you're 5 minutes from the castle, now you're in the middle of the city, basically, and there's nothing.
Wow, that's interesting. It feels like to me that maybe I need to bring some of my parapsychology friends and we need to come and have a road trip up to see you guys and go to some of these places. You
definitely need to come up and give a visit. 1,000 eyes. They do, it's as if they're all around you and they're just, Greyfriars' estimation is about 500,000 bodies are buried in there.
Wow, that's a lot.
And so it doesn't matter where you go, you're standing on, even if you're walking on the gravel path, you're walking on people, basically. You can't help it. But you do, and I've said this many times over the years, that you just feel that they're all standing about just watching you.
How interesting. I'd quite like to experience that.
But then that kind of blows my theory of what we said at the start about the water. And the air hangs heavy and silent in Greyfriars. How can I explain this? You see how I said at the start that we think spirit comes to the graveyard if you're near their resting place or their family's resting place. Right? But with Greyfriars, it's different.
But then maybe it's the energy of the actual place itself. So obviously there's lots we don't know and understand about energy. And I've got lots of friends that work with energy in different ways. And they will look at things like energy lines, ley lines, portals, other things like that that can change the whole atmosphere of something. So maybe there's more going on there than just spirit.
You see, well, Greyfriars is attached to the Covenanters prison, which is quite a horrific history.
Okay, so that's going to be lots of trauma then, isn't there, associated with that? So that's quite different to just a peaceful resting place. And
as soon as you walk through the Kirkyard into the prison, the gates are locked you know, because there was over 3,000 documented, reported attacks, and the Prince of Edinburgh City Council just says, you know, enough's enough. We're locking the gates. But City of the Dead tours, they've got access. So we've been out in the prison quite a few times.
Wow.
And as soon as you walk through the courtyard into the prison, there's a different atmosphere again.
Interesting.
Now, whether it just feels heavier and more depressing. That's the only way I can describe it. I wouldn't be able to describe it as well. The history of grief, rather than dress as despair, is a consideration. It just, because of what happened there, you know, with the Covenanters and stuff like that. Now, some people, which is possible, to say it's in your mind because you know the history of that place. You know what went on there, so you're expecting an atmosphere, a totally different, hostile atmosphere, if you want to put it that way. But then you need to take into account all these attacks that have happened.
Yeah, which is fascinating, isn't it?
And I mean, with 1 month alone, there was 11 ambulances called.
Gosh, that's crazy.
You know, with people fainting, passing out, kicked, punched, scratched, you name it. The list of that, I think that's the month that topped it for the council. He says, right, you know what? No, lock the gates and no buggers getting in, except on guided tours with somebody who knows what they're talking about.
That makes
So there is quite a heavy, depressing atmosphere. But to say so, the whole the spirits wander about graveyards when we're no there, basically. I don't know. Have we got a solution? Have we got an opinion?
I don't think we're ever going to know or have a solution. We're just discussing potential ideas, aren't we? And that's okay.
Yeah, as you say, where a graveyard might be. See, we do graveyards. We don't do cemeteries. We do graveyards. Even though a lot of people think it's the same thing, it's no. See, the amount of people I've spoke to over the years, say, no, it's the same thing. I say, it's not the same thing. They're two different things. But as you say, a graveyard, it could have been something prior.
Yeah.
It being a graveyard. Loudon it's always been a graveyard. Before that, it was just fields, basically.
Yeah.
We know that there's mines. See, it's like 10 minutes outside Kilmarnock. Kilmarnock used to be a great mining town.
Okay.
So there's literally miles of mines underneath Kilmarnock, and I dare say there's some under Loudon. So I've thought sometimes maybe the mines get something to do with it.
Well, I suppose it would. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Because, there might be people that lost their lives around there, but also that's got to alter the energy as well. If there's tunnels down there, I'm sure there's something scientific that sort of can explain that as well. I don't know. I'm not sure what that scientific thing will be, but I bet there's something.
See, I thought about this the other night too. I'll put your comment up in a wee second, Diane. We'll watch. I don't know if you watched Uncanny.
Yes, I have. I haven't watched any of the more recent things, but I have seen the first series and I've listened to quite a lot of the podcasts.
We were watching one the other night, and it was to do with a house. A wee boy had been seen in this house, a kind of Victorian boy sort of thing. And so, you know, the team, Danny Robbins, I hope that's his name, otherwise I look like I had an idea. It was a great mining town where this house was situated. But so what they did was they got the old maps from the coal board or colliery board or something like that. It certainly didn't know existed. And they put a map of the present day town over the old mine shafts, and it turned out that this particular house that this wee boy had been seen sat right on top of an old mine. Yeah. And they know that kids were used quite a lot, and there was a lot of kids tragically killed in the mines. So they were trying to think, well, is this wee boy, did he pass over? Did something happen to him in the mines? And this is why he's haunting this house. Several people had seen this wee boy in this house. So I started to think about Loudon. I thought, well, maybe there's mines round about Loudon.
Yeah, quite possibly. That's interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting thought. Are you going to sort of look into that more?
I'm going to, I've already said to Sarah and Laura about it. It's one of these thoughts that popped in my head while I was watching the programme, and then it went whoosh, went back out again. So I think we should maybe look at that. I don't know, I don't have a clue how we go about it, but we can maybe have a wee dig in and dig it, pardon the pun, and see if there's maybe a connection there. The connections we have had in the actual cut card, I don't like to say too much. One set of connections is definitely connected to the Kirk and to the farm. There's another one that we've had several of these two names over and over and over again, but we can't find anything to do with them. We don't have anything else on these two people.
Interesting. I suppose it depends on how far back people go, though, as well, because records weren't always as accurate and detailed in the past, were they? That's something that we've got better at over the years. And also, the names that people go by don't necessarily mean it's the name they were born by. People might have been called one name at birth and then changed their name for some reason or another, or had a nickname. So I suppose it's hard to find that information sometimes.
It's annoying, but because we've picked them up just every time we go to Loudon, and it's the same names, and so we've had 4 or 5 other teams in there, and they've picked up, on the same name as well. So we know that they're there, but we can't find any.
If it was the name they were born by, if that's the name that they would be recorded as, has anyone asked them that?
No, we've just always accepted it. I never thought we could make a point. We're going back to Loudon next month
to find out if that's it, because they might have a different name. They might be called. I know a lot of people in the past might have had the same name as their father, but because they were called the same name as that, they'd then be called by their middle name by their friends and family. So it might just be worth checking, clarifying with them.
Because I was just going to put your comments up, because every time we've been in with a different team, even Spig. The rigger, he did the blindfold and the headphones SC method, and we were a good 15-20 feet away, and I said to him, can you tell me the name of one of the, and he came back with it was spot on with the name.
Wow, that's amazing. How interesting.
No, it's where rigger couldn't hear what we were asking. 3 times I asked it at different intervals, and we got the same name. 3 times. I was thought, right, that's 100%. Rigger can't hear us. He doesn't know what we're asking, and he gave us that answer more or less straight away. It's interesting Eileen says this because we've got EVPs. Laura uses her phone quite a bit, and she just put the voice recorder and let it run. When we did Loudon with Rosie, we did a strong feeling that there was quite a few spirits about, and they were talking to each other, and we've got EVPs of them, and we can't make out what they're saying, but we can hear that clearly there's people there talking.
Oh, interesting.
And there was only 4, 1, 2, 3. There was only 5 of us there, and it was none of us, and it's not the kind of place somebody can be in and you don't see them. There's no, it's no huge or anything. But then there was clear EVPs.
Time as well, and if we have got different dimensions and different time all overlapping, then maybe they're not spirits at all. What if they're just somebody like us that have all got together with a group of friends and they're ghost hunting as well, and they think you're the ghost, and it's just that there's some overlap of time? That would be cool.
That's weird you say that, Debbie, because lots of unmarked, unrecorded burial sites too. That it's really weird you say that, because again, we were with Rosie and we've got a record. I'll ask Sarah, Laura, it's recorded somewhere. We get asked, are you ghosts?
Amazing.
And a clear EVP, are you ghosts? And we've never been asked that before. Plus, to use the word ghosts.
Yeah. So what if they're not actually ghosts? What if they're just different people in their own time period and it's just overlapping somehow?
Well, I think this is what Eileen was when she says earlier on about the multi-layer. I spoke about this in a show before, and I get completely lost. There, we keep getting back to multi-dimensional existence. So what I kind of mind it was Eileen, or kind of mind who was we were saying, you know. So what if that's somebody in the future? They're at Loudon, and they're investigating, and they think that they can hear. This is where I get confused. They can hear us.
You're investigating at a different point in time, talking to yourself, because if all time is running simultaneously, it could just be you talking to you at a different point in time.
You just threw a fork in the pot of soup there, didn't you? You just so, you know, is it? No, that was thanks for that, Debbie. You just totally lost me with that one. I'm very easily confused, as people tell you. So we thought that was really weird, and it might sound stupid. People might not, but I thought the choice of the word ghosts, you know, was unusual. Maybe I was reading too much into it. You know how your mind starts running away. I thought with the word ghosts, because to my knowledge, the word spirit didn't really come out till, you know, late maybe 1800s, 1900s sort of thing. When they started talking about spirits and spiritualist church and what have you. Prior to that, you know, the people call themselves, people say or use ghosts.
All right.
So I started thinking, I may be totally off the track here, I don't know. But I started thinking, well, is that somebody for, you know, for the past who can maybe hear us? They think, well, how could they hear us? And is that why they chose the word? Is that why they use that word ghost rather than spirits?
That's an interesting idea. And it could be sort of the age of the person as well, couldn't it? Because I know if my children were going and doing something like that, they would probably use the words ghosts as opposed to spirit. So, yeah, fascinating. And I suppose it works in all different directions, doesn't it? That it could be somebody from the past spotting you in the future.
See what you just said there about the age thing? Could it be that it was a little girl? Because a child is more, you say, you know, a child would be more liable to say ghosts.
I think so, a lot of the time. That's the vocabulary they're going to be more familiar with, isn't it, from films and books and things? I presume, anyway.
So could it be, because we know that as a little girl, could it be a little girl saying, "Are you ghosts"?
It could be.
That's got me thinking about that, and I never thought, just when you said the age thing, I'd never looked at it that way. I just found it really weird. We all found it really weird being asked the question. But
did you ask how old they were? Who was asking?
Well, I've asked a few times, but we never ever get an age.
Answer. Okay, that's interesting.
We kind of get the feeling that they're around about 12, 10, 12. The wee girl that I think I seen looked at maybe 12, 14, sort of, you know, young. So, but that's got me thinking now. I need to. Was it a child that was asking?
Maybe.
Because the kind of thing a child, or am I reading too much into it? It's the kind of thing, oh, are you a ghost? I'm going to. Well, Eileen, got your book here, doll. Got your book. This is Eileen's. But I don't know if you can see that. I won that week.
The more I definitely need to come along one time to see what you're all experiencing and join in and see what I can find out as well. This sounds very exciting.
We see that's so. See, we've what's Eileen saying? Some spirits don't know how old they are.
Yeah.
True. Woohoo. Eileen did last year. She did a raffle thing on Facebook. You had to pick a number, and I won a pen, book, and a badge. So nice. I'll still go to Eileen. I'm going to write down. Pause. I never write anything down as well. I've seen this before. I've always got a pen But this folk says to me, I see my pen, but you never see you writing. I say, I know I don't write anything down, it's just something to twirl about, you know. But no, you definitely, you arrange to come up, because we took 4 or 5 teams in to Loudon, and you say, right, you know, go for it, on you go and do what you want. We've got a big investigation there next month with Eileen and our other half in Highland Paranormal. They're all coming down. 16th of March, we're heading to Loudon. We're going to split them up. We're going to do half and half. Some are going to go to the cut, some are going to go to the farm, and then we're going to swap them round after a certain time. And then compare notes, basically.
Oh, that sounds
but I know you do our top. If Debs comes up, mind, I might, Eileen, I'll think about it. Depends how many tea cakes you buy me. You need to buy me. That just happened again with the wee circle.
Yeah, it did. I couldn't hear you or anything. Yeah.
I don't know. I check my Wi-Fi on my phone.
Probably a good idea. Although I don't know what your weather's like there. Our weather's terrible here today. So
the day it's been. No, I've got the Wi-Fi signal with the 2.
I can't hear you or see you moving now. Hopefully you'll come back in a minute. Otherwise it's me just talking to everybody.
You're back.
Hello, can you hear me? I can hear you. I can't see you moving yet. Okay, you're moving again now. Yes, I can see you moving.
Gale force here today, but I would say, I don't know what's happening. We've had quite strong winds here today, so I don't know if that's just.
Yeah, we've got strong winds here as well, which I do think has an impact sometimes.
So if we cut out, folks, I do apologise. I don't know what's good. It seems to be happening quite rapidly now. With a wee stint there, it didn't happen for a while, but it seems to be happening quite dingy. Laura's called the tech department, which will be Sarah, who's over there. So we'll move on quickly to the next subject in case we do get cut off.
Okay, that sounds good.
Time awareness. Now,
yeah, this is really interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, tell me.
I'm going to tell you my theory, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I might be totally wrong. The easiest way, as you message Sarah, the easiest. I'm going to try and make it as easy as I can. It might sound totally stupid, but if you imagine a house, 2 rooms, right, a living room and a bedroom, right? And you're passed over, you're standing there and you're looking at your other half lying in bed watching the TV, right? And then all of a sudden, you turn round and he's sitting on. You can see in the living room and he's sitting on the couch watching the TV.
Right.
You with me so far?
Yes.
Sarah's just checking the. Bear with me, doll. I've got a big white screen in front of me.
Okay. No worries.
Don't you worry about what's on the.
See, it keeps coming up the wee circle.
I know.
Right, so you look at your other half and he's sitting on the couch. Now, to you, it's only a split.
It must be to do with the wind.
Sarah reckons to do with the wind. So if we get cut off, I do apologise.
Because you're on the Ethernet cable, you're not even on Wi-Fi.
So to you, it's only a split second. You know, you see them sitting in the bed, watch you tell, you turn around, and he's in the living room. To use a split, but to him, it could be 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
Do you follow what I mean?
I get what you're saying, and I think there's lots of different components, isn't there, that we perhaps have to consider when we look at spirits and time, because I suppose even for us, time moves differently. So I know for me, if I'm having a really nice time and enjoying myself, time feels like it goes very fast. Whereas if I'm like waiting for something, or I've maybe got some sort of anticipation or nerves, time can feel quite slow. So I think depending on our feeling state, it changes how we perceive time, as well as what's going on around us. So I think that has to be taken into account to start with.
Mm-hmm.
And then what else do we have to think about? I suppose as well, we're in our physical bodies. So for us, we have got the gravitational field of the earth. We've got the bodies that we're in. So time is always going to feel like it's moving in a certain way. But if a spirit isn't in the body anymore, maybe time is perceived differently. So that's looking sort of more at a scientific perspective. Now, if my scientific friend is watching and I get this wrong, I apologize. But if you think about, is it Einstein's theory of relativity, which means that time moves differently depending on like how fast an object is moving, I think, and also like how close we are to a massive object like the gravitational field. So time can dilate or feel differently depending on sort of what we're in contact with. So if you are removed from the physical reality, then maybe time feels different anyway. Does that make sense, or is that too complicated?
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you, a bit complicated. We are markers in times.
Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, like you say, we've got those markers in time, day and night, the seasons. Whereas perhaps if you're in spirit, you don't have those things as well, which I think, like you say, they tell us how time moves, don't they? I suppose as well, I'm just going to talk because I don't know if anyone can hear me, but you're frozen. So I think with spirits as well, it maybe depends on going back to that feeling state of how they're feeling. So if they are stuck in a trauma or a negative experience, then maybe that feels really quite lonely. And if you're feeling lonely, maybe time moves very, very slowly. And if you're stuck with those thoughts or the trauma, perhaps time doesn't move at all. You're back. Yay. Can you hear me and see me?
It totally kicked me out there.
It did. So I was just waffling on to fill the time. So I was saying with spirits, perhaps as well, it depends on their feeling state. So if somebody's, say, feeling very lonely or very unhappy, or they're stuck in like a constant thought loop, time's maybe going to pass very, very slowly, and there wouldn't be that awareness of time. So for some spirits, perhaps they are stuck in a moment, stuck in their reality at the moment they died. Whereas for others, perhaps they are quite aware of the passing of time because they notice what's going on with the different people they love, or that maybe even the people they loved are no longer there.
See, I thought about this a long time ago. I think I put a post on the page. Again, Loudon Cut. I do apologise for keep mentioning Loudon, but this struck me one. There was a time we did Loudon about 3 or 4 Saturdays in a row. And
Right, hold on, no, you might cut off.
I might cut out Sarah's doing her.
Okay, I'll just keep waffling away.
Keep waffling away in case I disappear. So if I do disappear, I will be back.
Okay.
So I came out the gate of Loudon one week, and then also we went back the following week, and it's stuck in my head. If spirits see us leaving, Loudon, going through that gate, and then we come back, obviously it's 7 days for us.
Yep.
Is it 7 days for them, or have they just saw us walk out and then walk straight back in again?
Well, I would presume it's more that, because obviously time is a physical man-made construct, isn't it, that we experience here? Why would spirit need time in that same linear way?
That might help.
2 seconds out, is that would be?
Might be.
I think it might be fixed. Sarah was here and
I've switched you to Wi-Fi.
She's put us onto the Wi-Fi to do the ethereal, whatever you call that other thing. So what were you saying, sorry, Debbie?
What was I saying? That's a really good question. I don't know.
I think that's cutting out an inch kind of throwing us off.
It has a little bit. Oh, I'm glad you can hear me. That's really good. Yeah. I think there's a lot of different things to consider. Why would spirit need to have an awareness of time the same? So, yeah, particularly if this is just like a page in the book of a spirit's life or the soul's journey, we don't need that same time awareness. But then I suppose we're going back to sort of complicated science stuff as well, that perhaps all past, present and future is all playing out simultaneously.
I'm listening to you, David.
That's fine. So, yeah, so time hasn't got that linear construct in spirit because they don't need that, maybe. So this is where, like, going back to when I'm doing past life regressions as well, let's go back to that in-between life state where the soul is planning out its next lifetime. It will choose a point in history or a point in time that's going to give that soul that lesson. So their last life might have been, say, in China in 200 BC. The life before that they had might have been in 2035. So I think spirits can probably jump into different time periods in terms of when they go into a physical human body to have a human lifetime. So I don't understand why it'd be any different for that for actual spirits. Sort of time is probably, yeah, just a bit more Doctor Who timey-wimey, to be honest. It probably doesn't pass in the same way.
See, I've often wondered about it, you know, as no doubt other people have as well. You know, as when you're in spirit, you know, do you get 7 days a week and stuff like that? Or it's the same question as, you know, when we pass over. Some people say to me, oh, when you pass over, you can go anywhere you want. You know, you go any country you want. You know, whatever. I mean, I'm off to Graceland basically when I, you know, travel for free. Do you know what I mean? So you wonder, well, can you just wander about? And if you can wander about, do you sense time the same as in the physical? But just as you were saying there, I mean, do we really need to sense it?
Probably not, because we don't have the same things like having to go to our job or having to call a person at a certain time. It's probably more just existing. And I think going back to what you were saying about traveling to different places, certainly I think some spirits do stay in a particular place, perhaps because it's got an emotional connection to them, or they're with a person they love. But other spirits, from my experience, do tend to wander around. So there's quite a lot of times I've done the spirit release work, and there's been a spirit that's come through that passed away in a completely different country. The first time I experienced it was a man came through and started speaking Egyptian, which was really interesting, that I'm sat here with a lady that's always lived in the UK, and all of a sudden she's speaking a foreign language. And the entity that comes through claims he's Egyptian. And why is he here in England, in Lincolnshire, when he passed away in Egypt? So that was really interesting for me. And I've had that lots of times since, where different spirits have come in. They've said they've passed away in America or France or Germany or wherever it is. But for some reason, they've attached to a human being that lives around me. So that makes me think time and space isn't constructed in the same way wherever those souls are.
You see, that's interesting. You say that. But time is a man-made concept. Treated times you sleep at these times, and the animal kind of animals work by the sun. Just what you're saying, you know, Egyptian. There's a place, Denur Castle. It's called. It's on the west coast, right on the west coast. That's you know, it's got a cliff. We've investigated there a few times, and one time we picked up a French woman. Okay. Now, for what we could tell, I might have this wrong. Laura will keep us right, because my memory sucks, basically. For what we can tell, there wasn't any French connections to that castle.
Okay, that's interesting.
But we got a French woman coming through. So just when you were saying about the Egyptian guy, And then we got a guy at Loudon who, I mean, that's a couple of years ago. He passed over in America. He was in the army. I think he's a young guy, he's in his 20s. He passed over in America, and for what we know, he's buried in America, but there's a family monument sort of thing in Loudon.
Oh, interesting.
But we were getting this guy, and we were asking, where did you pass? And it came back to America, something like that. We didn't get any accent or anything, but we know that he was, and obviously he was buried over across the pond. I thought, well, why is he in Loudon?
Interesting.
Just kind of randomly turns up. Which is, well, strange to us, I mean, I know we watch some teams, and, I hate ridiculing our team. I'm not going to name anybody, but some of the stuff that they come out with is just, unbelievable. One team, they were saying that they'd contacted a Japanese kamikaze pilot that crashed in the mountains at Greenock. The Greenock sits. Greenock's just outside Glasgow.
All right.
But this Japanese kamikaze pilot crashed into the mountains at Greenock.
Okay.
But he was somewhere else. I think he was out the Edinburgh way. They picked up on him, this other team. The teams they here, they travelled over there. So a Japanese kamikaze guy crashed into the mountains at Greenock, but he turned up in Edinburgh direction.
All right.
I was so buried in France talking to me in Jedburgh. So, as you see, you're the Egyptian guy. Right? Eileen's saying there she had somebody who passed over in France. So, is that a case of they can go where they want? So, and as basic as it might sound, is it simply a case of, say I'm Scottish, so I've never been to America. I'm going to go and have a wander about. And then you just happen to pick up, you notice people doing an investigation or something. Right, well, I'm going to.
I suppose it depends on how attached they still are to their physical human life. So I've had spirits that have come through before, and actually I had one lady that had been burnt to death, and she came through a client and still felt like she was in that pain and she was disfigured. And as soon as we explained to her that actually she'd passed away and wasn't in that body, and energetically she could choose how she wanted to be, my client saw her transform into this absolutely beautiful woman. So, but for her, because she was still very attached to her death, she hadn't even recognized that she didn't need to be in pain or suffering anymore. Just like some spirits might stay close to where they died because they don't realize they can go anywhere else, whereas others maybe think, oh, do you know what, I'm off wandering and I'm going to have a lovely time. So maybe it depends on thought processes.
You're spot on with the French lady, same with the American guy, but he validated he was buried in America. So this guy was buried in America, but he did come through over here. So it was a case of him finally coming home, basically. But that's that you were saying about the girl who had been burnt. So she was kind of stuck, sort of thing.
Yeah, so although she knew she passed away, she was still very much attached to the trauma that had happened just before she passed, and hadn't realised that actually now she's no longer in a body, she doesn't need to experience that trauma anymore. So as soon as that was explained, she could transform her energy into something that was more peaceful for her and then go on her way. So I presume it depends on the way that it's being perceived by that spirit as to how free they are to move about and do different things and experience different things.
And then look at the other thing that comes into it is, freedom of choice, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
Do they want to move on, or do they want to hang about? As you said as well, do they know they can move on?
Yeah. And some don't. As from my experience of them talking through people, they don't always know that. Or even if they do know, they don't, because either they're frightened that they might go to somewhere like hell or a bad place because they've done something, or they're frightened to leave behind the people that they love, or they've got some sort of addiction or some sort of need that can be satiated when they're close to sort of the human realm. But if they go into sort of full spiritual realm, they won't be able to have those needs met anymore. So I think it's going to be very dependent on the circumstances.
I'll be doing to the individual, and as you say, maybe they're not aware that they can go and they can come back.
Yeah.
You know, or they're simply afraid of what's on the other side of the door.
Absolutely, because I suppose that's scary, isn't it, for a lot of people? I mean, if you think about in day-to-day life, lots of people don't like to embrace any change in their normal realities. Think about how many people live their lives unhappy in an unhappy marriage, an unhappy job, being unfulfilled, but they don't make those changes in their physical life because of fear or something's holding them back. So why is it going to be any different for them when they've passed away, unless that they choose they don't need to do that anymore?
It's quite cool. It's just that's what I love about the paranormal. It's just there's that many different branches on it. Do you know what I mean? And you can literally sit and talk all night as long as your internet works okay. That is. I don't know why I jinx it, but I mean the concept of time. It's you know. Oh, thanks very much, Eileen Doc. It's one that sort of puzzles me. Because there is, and I don't know if it's a biblical saying. I heard it many years ago. Is it now? Somebody in the chat might correct me on this, but I think it goes along the lines of a second is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a second or something.
Okay.
I think it's something to do with the Bible. No, that was ever out. I did try and read the Bible many years ago, but I got lost. It's too complicated, too much heavy reading, and that's always kind of stuck with me. See, because you think when you pass over, right? So you get a husband and wife, right? I'm not talking about anybody in particular. Just an example: husband and wife, and the husband passes first, you know, and they've been together for many years, and so he's gone, but he's still about in spirit, and he's wanting his wife to join him. I don't mean in a bad way. He doesn't want her knocked off or anything like that, you know, running with a bus or something, you know.
Yeah, just misses her, yeah.
Aye, misses her. He doesn't want to take her with a hitman or anything like that, you know. Take the missus out so she can join me this side. So you've got this gentleman, he's in spirit, his wife's still here, and he just wants her to be with him. Now, she might live for another 20 years, say.
Yeah.
So maybe wonder, how long is it 20 years for him? Because you know the old saying, you know, there's always loved ones waiting on us on the other side.
Yeah.
Say, well, if 1,000 years is like a second and vice versa, so when we pass and then our other half passes, is it just what a second to us? Or am I making sense here?
It does make sense. And I think once again, it maybe comes back to where that spirit goes. So if they stay sort of what I would say earthbound, so they're very much attached to this earthly realm, it's probably going to feel quite long. Whereas if they go to sort of back to being in the spiritual planes, it's probably going to feel just really nice and relaxing and very peaceful. And if there isn't that concept of time there, it probably won't feel very long at all. So once again, I think it's dependent on choice as to where that spirit chooses to go. Because I think we have a difference of those trapped souls that are here all the time and those that go off into sort of the spiritual nice realms, however you want to describe that. And then they just pop in to give messages and check that their family are okay. It's probably going to feel very different where you choose to go.
And then Laura's saying, I don't know, the thing is because people gave the notion that when you're dead, there's nothing else paranormal. Personal validation is proof. My dad was one of that. I think it was the last time you were on, Debbie. He was adamant, totally adamant. That's it. There's nothing. You're off. Your eyes shut and there's nothing, nowhere. So, you know, if our loved ones do hang about, I'm going to come back to the graveyard scenario. It's similar, but it's no similar. I'm weary of this internet popping off again. I keep watching all the wee bits and pieces on the screen. So you've got a gentleman who's passed over, his wife's still in the physical, and he decides he wants to hang about with her, till her time comes. And so, she's going about her daily life once she gets back to normal. And then, so when she goes to her bed at night, it might sound totally stupid. When she goes to her bed at night, what does he do? Does he sit at the end of the bed watching her, or does he? Do you know what I mean?
It's a really good question, isn't it? So it depends on if that person in spirit is there all the time, or do they pop off and do their other things? Because I don't think if I had a loved one, as much as I love them, I wouldn't want them to be in spirit with me all of the time, because there's some things that are private, aren't they? Like go to the bathroom, or I wouldn't want somebody in there doing things like that. Or when I'm sleeping, I'd be quite happy for them to pop off wherever. So I don't know, really. It sounds pretty boring for the spirit if they're just with that person all the time.
But then, would it be boring for the spirit because would they have the concept of the time?
And they might not. And I suppose that means it depends. Maybe. Oh, I don't know. This is getting quite complicated.
Now, who's meant pickled now?
I don't know.
I'll just go back to there's 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 8. A day is like a day is like 1,000 years. I was say a second. I was nearly right.
I think you did really well.
Thank you. I was on the kind of right. You mean the Christian part of me come out? Stop it. Okay. No. My dad thought it was a light road of rubbish. You see, he was wrong after he passed. My dad was the same though. He was like, it's crap. It's bollocks. You die. You're gone. You're in the ground. Whatever. Gone. So that scenario, right, of the husband with the wife, that actually encompasses both your topics tonight. If you think about it, the first one is: does he hang about when she's sleeping? If not, where does he go? Same as if we don't investigate a graveyard, do the spirits hang about? Do they go elsewhere? Yep. Second bit is when she shuts her eyes to go to sleep. If he does hang about, does he just see her shutting her eyes and then open them again?
Maybe. It's interesting, isn't it? And I think probably from all this lovely conversation, we've probably come to the conclusion that we don't have a clue. We don't know the
answers. Excuse me. Eliza, is that pronounced right?
Yeah.
My dad popped up in my living room recently.
Interesting.
A little bit, I say like that. We just flickered there again. It's just as our dad popped up in the living room. I mean, I had my dad come through me at a spiritualist church, and this was, I don't know, quite a few years after he passed. Yeah. The medium described him doing a tea. I think I told you about this before in the last show, which is proof that they are still there. It's just how do they perceive time and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know you, but my brain's pickled now.
Sometimes I think it's good though with that, because sometimes when your brain gets all pickled like that, it shows that there's new learning that's about to occur. So maybe we just need to allow this to sit in our minds now, and we just need to let it settle, and then we'll have some sort of epiphany and new knowledge that will spring to us in the next few days.
And then the next show we can talk about an epiphany. Took 5 years for Dad to come through to me. But then you see, was it 5 years for him as well?
It might not have been.
This is the thing. Have we opened up a can of worms? Tonight, basically, it's you could drive yourself literally insane. Just actually thinking about it. My dad popped up in the living room recently. He died in 2017. I moved my mum's ashes out of the living room a month before. She also died in 2000 previously. Only mum made her presence felt. So her mum made a presence, and then do you think maybe the lady's dad popped up because the mum's ashes had been moved?
It sounds like that's the potential, doesn't it? And I think sort of maybe spirit only comes through when it's the right time. So it might be that spirit has got some healing or learning to do, but also it might be that, for example, Eliza's maybe had some healing or growth journey, which has helped her change either her relationship dynamic with her dad and her experiences of him when he was alive, or just other circumstances in her life have shifted that have then allowed him to come through. So that's interesting.
My gran was like, no, load of crap. We used to believe in psychics. When my cousin Anne went to a psychic, my gran came through, and her first message was, "It's real, it's really real." Well, you see, that's the whole scenario. We find out when we get there. Yes, he never liked her visiting me when they were out, after. So that means when they were alive.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird how with time passes. When I've had my loved ones come back to me, you know, my daughter, my dad, stuff like that. And I lost my daughter in 1992, and it was last year. When I went to see a medium in Glasgow. It must have been around about the year 2000, some of that. And she told me, "Your daughter's here. She's sitting on your knees." She called Donna. She was spot on. Nobody knew me in that place. But this woman says, "You've got a daughter spirit." Called Donna. She's been on your knees since you came in.
Wow.
She even told me about my gran and my dad and stuff. We personal things she told me. But last year, it was a year before, we did a location here called Stair. It's just a wee village, a churchyard. Every investigation we do, we always feel there's a little girl kicking about, always around us, no matter where it is. So this particular day, one of the team, I can't remember what suggested, maybe it's Donna. So I says, you know, if this is you, can you tell me what toy I used to put in beside you at night time? Never get anything back. But I said, can you tell me what colour it was? And we got back green. I think I told you this, did I not?
Quite possibly.
And so I asked again, what colour was it? And it came back green. I used to shoot a wee Rexy for Toy Story.
Oh.
Laura was trying to stare. It was just a wee toy Rexy for Toy Story. I used to put it in her cot every night. Rexy was green. And then at Loudon, I did a Halloween walk one night myself, and I got my sleeve tugged twice at Loudon. And it was last year. I says, can you tell me who was it that pulled on my sleeve that night? I was here alone. And we got back at Queer EVP. It was me, Daddy.
Oh, bless her.
And I wasn't the only one that heard it. So that was some years since she had actually passed. We always felt that there was a wee girl, you know, round about us. Yes, my dad never liked my mum visiting me. Lots of feeling has happened since. My sister's even coming around to the idea of acceptance. It might be our energies which create the manifestations. What do you think about that one, Debbie?
That's a really interesting concept, isn't it? Yeah. I think that's really fascinating to think about. I'm going to explore that more. So, I think acceptance is a big thing, isn't it? And that makes sense because that's going to change the energies and allow things perhaps to come through.
It is once you accept it. I mean, when I went to see that medium in Glasgow, it was my first marriage. And I was totally shocked. I believed in it. You know, I did, because I'd been to quite a few specialist churches, and I did believe there was something after here, etc. But that really nailed it for me that night. And I went home, and my ex-wife now, thank God, however, I told her, you know, it was Donna's mum, obviously, and she didn't believe it. And I says, look, you explain this to me then. I always remember the conversation we had. I said, if you don't believe it, you explain to me how this woman can tell me that's never met me before. But she just point blank. I said, she told me about my grandma, her apron tying habit to describe my dad, kind of Jack Nicholson. Look, you tell me about Donna, and she just would not accept it. And you know, I heard that, you know, Donna's with you, Scott. Love like that never dies. Big help, Scott. You know that. a lot for me. Well, it's a big help for Laura. It's pushing the boat out a bit, but she just wouldn't accept it, you know. And what everybody believes, you know, we've got ex-team members that came along to dinner one night, and her lass's husband, he didn't believe in it at all, you know, which is fine, you know. But by the end of that investigation, the messages came through that related to him.
Right, okay.
And he came away, I'm not going to use the word converted or anything, but he came away with second thoughts. And he said he wasn't totally convinced, but he was certainly not the same person that we took on the investigation. No, it's crap. So come along. And after the investigation, we're like, well, maybe there is something to this.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think sometimes people need to have that first-hand experience, don't they? And also be ready to be open to it. Because I think these things can bring up complex feelings, can't they? They are associated with grief sometimes and loss, and that can be painful for people.
Aye, it can be. I mean, I'm speaking first-hand here. That night, again, with that medium, when she said, you know, you've got a daughter called Donna, and she's sitting on your knee, you automatically look at you. Automatic, I couldn't say that word. It's automatic. You look at your knee.
Yeah.
And you picture them there. And but then you start to wonder, you know, Donna was just under 6 months and we lost her. And so this was a few years down the line. So you wonder, well, if this woman can see her. And thinking back, I maybe should have asked the woman, what's she like?
Yeah.
You know, if you can see her, what's she like? Is she grown? You know?
Yeah.
Or is she still the same size as she was, basically? The same way at Stair when it came through, it was me, Daddy.
Yeah.
To me, that's a child that's matured, basically, if you know what I mean.
But is that spirit then coming through in the way that it's going to be acceptable for you to perceive them? So in that scenario, is she coming through grown so that she can give you the messages she needs to convey to you, and is therefore making that choice? So because spirits don't have a physical body, do they? So I think maybe she came through in whatever way you needed to get that message at the time.
Aye, that's a good point. She would need to have done that, but you know, it's just, you know, the whole loved one thing. I believe they're still around us, and they choose when they. I mean, it could be decades you don't hear from them, and then right, something might happen, or they decide, right, you know, I'm going to say hello, and just let them know that You always feel them. You always feel them around. No doubt you have as well. At some point.
Absolutely. I know my granddad comes in when I'm going through big life transitions. So most of the time I don't feel him around, but if there's those key moments where I really need some help or assistance, I feel his presence. So it's really interesting.
I mean, I think we talked about it the last time. I always feel that, you know, and sorry if I'm repeating it, but in life we've all had a time when there's been an issue, a problem with financial, whatever, and you can't see any way out it. And then at the very last minute, what is it, say the 12th hour or whatever it is, and saying is, a solution comes up, or you think of something.
Absolutely.
You know, you think, is that spirit? Is that somebody coming in and giving you that wee nudge? Do this. You know, here's an idea for you, and they put it in you. You know, and that's problem solved. You know what I mean? But that's around 40 minutes. So I'm going to wind it up there, but I'm going to bring you back, Debs. Don't worry.
Excellent. I always like chatting to you. It's always interesting.
Say it again. Say it loud so everybody can hear.
It's always interesting chatting to you. It's absolutely wonderful.
That's better. There's 6 tea cakes on their way to you just now. Oh, no, you don't have tea cakes down there, do you?
We do. I'm not sure if they're called the same thing, but I'm quite boring. I don't eat sugar or anything. I don't eat sugar. I don't eat wheat. So I tend to just eat fruit and meat, really. Not very exciting.
As long as you eat meat, you know, it's totally fine. I've nothing against vegetarians. Everybody's just, you know, their own thingy.
Different people need different things. We've got different bodies, different life experiences, different belief systems, and it's up to each individual.
Always remind you, just cut before we cut out. Eileen saying, night, guys, thanks very much for your time. Debs, hope we meet one day. You're welcome, Eileen. Somebody mentions you, never me.
It's because I'm nice. As are you. Of course you are.
Thanks for a great live, both of you. Thanks, Doc. I mean, everybody's got their own belief system, what they eat and drink and all the rest of it. I always remember, I'm a chef, and I used to work at a place called the Steakhouse in Kilmarnock. It's shut down now. But one night, we had 2 vegans came in.
Okay.
Into a state, and they were kicking up hell because there was nothing on the menu. And the staff were saying to them, well, you see the sign outside, it says Steakhouse.
Yeah.
You've nothing on the menu for us. That's because it's a steakhouse. You know, no offence to you, but you're kind of in the right place here. Do you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a totally useless bit of information there anyway. I just thought I'd throw that in. So I'll keep a hold of you after we come off, dear, for a wee second or two. So where can people find you?
So if you look, I'm Debbie Ison. My business is Tranquil Awakenings. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I've got a website, www.tranquil-awakenings.co.uk. Yeah, just send me a message if you're interested in chatting.
Yeah, so give her a wee look up on Facebook, folks, and drop her a wee mail. And you will be seeing her again. And we'll say, I'll hold on just for a wee second. So that's us for tonight. So a massive thanks to Debbie for a very interesting chat. I do apologise for the tech issues. I don't have a clue about them, so I'm just going to say sorry, and that's it. Basically, you know, blaming the weather.
You kept me on my toes.
Kept to your toes, and, you know, you Debbie to yourself for a wee couple of minutes or whatever it was. I don't know. I've no concept of time. We joke there. But you will be seeing Debbie again. And thanks to everybody who came into the chat and for all your comments. We're on tomorrow night again with Barry Frankie. She's coming back. Proud to be paranormal. The brains, but aye, all right, though. Bonus points for calling in tech. You know, she's just sitting right there. Aye, so Barry's in tomorrow night. He's the brain behind Proud to be Paranormal. I don't have a clue what we'll be talking about, but we will be chatting, and that's it. So we'll say good night tonight, just now, folks, and enjoy the rest of your evening. All right, bye for now. Bye.